Red, an apothecary residing in the frontier town of Zoltan, is popular but keeps his past hidden. He was formerly Gideon, brother to the current hero, his sister Rudy, and a member of her hero's party. Because of his inability to improve his combat skills, Ares, the sub-leader, banished Gideon for being a liability. Being a knight of Bahamut, it will be a disgrace if he returns to his order, so Ares allows him to leave all the items that he got from the party, simply disappear, and start a new life. Red meets Albert, an adventurer seeking to defeat a dangerous owlbear that appeared nearby, and requiring a guide through the forests. Hoping to keep his past and abilities hidden, Red refuses. Red's young friend, Tanta, is afflicted by an illness that will render him blind. Risking punishment from the Adventurers Guild, Red enters the closed-off forest to gather medicinal plants needed to cure him. Albert sets the forest aflame to drive the owlbear out, and Red is forced to secretly kill it. Albert is suspicious but claims he killed the owlbear to collect the reward. Tanta is saved, and Gauntz, his carpenter uncle, builds Red his own house and drugstore, allowing Red to start the quiet life he desires. A familiar person enters Red's store. Rit, short for Rizlet, princess of the Duchy of Logorvia, a major military power. She fled to Zoltan to escape a power struggle within her family and intends to live with Red, which he reluctantly accepts. As Rit settles in with Red, his former hero party acquire a new recruit named Tis Garland, gifted with the divine blessing of the assassin. This episode includes flashbacks of Red and Rit's past. The heroes' party affiliated themselves with the Duchy of Logorvia. Rit was Logorvia's princess and a brash B-rank adventurer who claimed the duchy didn't need the hero. Rit had suggested to her master, the Duke of Logorvia, that she raid the food stores of the Demon Lord's army. During the failed raid, Rit discovered her master was dead and had been impersonated by Shisenden, a general of the Demon Lord's army. She was nearly killed but was saved by Red while Rudy slew Shisenden. Traumatized by the death of her master, Rit became depressed until Gideon renewed her will to fight and eventually defeat the Demon Lord's army. Shortly afterwards, Gideon was banished and settled in Zoltan as Red the Apothecary. After shopping for a bed for Rit, she and Red successfully have a painkiller Red concocted approved for sale. It is angrily refused at first by Dan, the one in charge of approvals, because of a similar medicine with addictive properties he approved months earlier, and he was blamed for its impact. Rit uses her connections to get their painkiller approved. To accompany this new product, the two then make and sell a health supplement, cold and fever remedy in the form of a cookie which sells out in hours. Meanwhile, Danon becomes sick of Ares as their mission to locate the Demon Lord's weapon, with help from the desert people, has failed. Ares is furious at the suggestion they only failed due to his poor leadership and Red's absence. Knowing that Ares really only banished Red out of envy, Danon, with the approval of Rudy, leaves to find Red. This episode also explains the blessing skill system, which can only be leveled up by killing another sentient living being with a blessing skill. Blessings can also affect personality. For example, having a combat skill can actually make people more prone to violent behavior. Many are shocked that Rit, Zoltan's most formidable adventurer, is working and living with Red. Rit has a craving for meat and leaves to buy some. Albert visits the store and accuses Red of killing the owl bear. Red denies any involvement, provoking Albert to attack him, but is foiled by Rit's return. Albert is shocked at Rit working in Red's store, as well as Red's speed, moving across the room to catch the meat Rit dropped before it hit the ground. Red and Rit visit Zeph's sauna and notice a lack of customers due to a competing bathhouse built by nobles that includes a restaurant and massage parlor. Zeph is certain he will go out of business, prompting now to scold his defeatist attitude. Red suggests using a potpourri of medicinal herbs in the sauna itself to tempt customers back. Later, Rit revealed the reason for her wanting mead. It reminded her of a tradition in Logorvia about newly married couples drinking mead together. Meanwhile, Theodora asks Tis if she feels joining the party was a mistake as the hero's party is encountering failure after failure, causing squabbles among themselves, something that never happened when Gideon was still around. The Adventurers Guild attempts to bribe Rit to return to adventuring, but Rit refuses. Red refuses a similar bribe from the Thieves Guild. Red gives Rit an amber bracelet and hints his next gift will contain a gemstone. The Thieves Guild is afraid Rit might view them as an enemy and sends Daya to blackmail her by threatening to reveal her location to her royal family. But this fails as Rit doesn't care about her royal status. Rit remembers before the hero party vanquished the Demon Lord's army, she and the party wanted to ask the Duchy of Sunland for help, but had to cross the Bewitching Woods, a dangerous magical area, with the help of Red's friend Yerendrala, a high elf immune to the magical effects of the woods. Rit thought Yerendrala liked Red, but was surprised when Yerendrala told her to pursue Red herself. However, seeing how close Red was to Rudy, Rit decided not to come between them and left the party to rebuild her homeland. Rudy misses Red terribly and remembers shortly after Red left, she became aware that Ares did something to make him leave, causing her to beat Ares almost to death. While on a medicine delivery to Dr. Newman's clinic, Red saves Jackson, a victim of poisoning, which the doctor diagnoses as a narcotic drug overdose caused by the recently approved painkiller. Red decides against investigating. After taking a swimming picnic break with Rit by the river, which is a chance for them to get closer, Al, Tanta's friend, reveals that he has unlocked his blessing, that of the weapon master. Several members of Albert's party, gone berserk, attack Rit until Albert kills them. Meanwhile, Danon reaches Zoltan looking for Red, and meets a man named Buey, who is also looking for Red. Red remembers how, as a kid, he would invent reasons to hold Rudy's hand and promise to become a knight so he could adventure with her. Dr. Newman suddenly arrives with an injured Al. Meanwhile, as the hero's party is resupplying at an oasis in the Blood Sand Desert in preparation for another quest, Tis learns of Rudy's lingering misery caused by her brother's absence. When Al recovers, he says that a demi came to their house and attacked him and his parents with an axe. But luckily, Al's parents are found alive by Red and Dr. Newman. News that a demi vanished after the attack roused the people of Southmarsh in protest, claiming he's being sheltered by the town guard led by Moan, a demi's father. After they hear that Tanta was taken away by the town guard for questioning, Red and Rit pull strings to arrange a meeting with Moan and Tanta. Moan apologizes for Tanta's treatment, but vehemently refuses to consider that his son might have become a potential murderer due to the urges of his blessing, and commissions Rit to find the source of the drug. While Al is in the apothecary, a stranger arrives to give him a red-bladed shotell enchanted with a locate spell. On Moan's request, Rit catches a drug dealer but is caught in an ambush from which Danon saves her. Danon respects Gideon's desire for a quiet life and thus tells Rit to keep quiet about his presence. They also discover that the assailants are disguised minor demons. As Red and Rit later go into town to find Al a weapon suitable for his blessing, protests against the town guard are heating up, likely staged by Big Hawk himself. Meanwhile, the hero's party has found one of the weapons of the former demon lord, an airship. During the fight with its demon guardians, Ares proves his inadequacy as a party member, but refuses to acknowledge his shortcomings. While the airship gives Rudy the chance to retrieve her brother, she refrains from doing so. As Rit deals with Dio and the people who sent the red shotell, Big Hawk's henchmen kidnap Al. Al finds out that Big Hawk is responsible for distributing the Devil's Blessing, the narcotic plaguing Zoltan. Big Hawk wants to use Al for his own agenda by having him execute a demi, whom he has in his custody. Al instead frees a demi, and they are rescued by Red. Red confronts Albert and Big Hawk's gang, and finds out that Big Hawk has been taken over by a contract demon named Belial. Albert, consumed by his ambitions to become a member of the hero's party, tries to attack Red, but Red cuts off his sword hand. Albert and Big Hawk are arrested by the town guard, and Al and Ademi reveal Big Hawk's plan to the public, alleviating the crisis. A few days later, it's revealed that Red and Rit's relationship is getting stronger, and that Al has not only decided to start adventuring but has also joined a party. However, Buey visits the possessed Big Hawk in prison, revealing himself as Shisenden, the Demon Lord's general supposedly slain by Rudy, who scolds Belial for making humans aware of the hidden potentials that the Devil's Blessing could unleash in them. After making a new contract with Albert, Belial breaks them both out of jail to join the hero's party, only to have Rudy drawing her sword at them. As Rit and Red starts marketing hand warmers for the winter, Buey applies as a B-ranked adventurer in Zoltan. Rudy receives some Devil's Blessing from Belial, and, wanting more, abandons the hero's party and departs for Zoltan in the airship with Tis, masquerading as simple adventurers. Tis chances upon Red at a roadside food stall. They recognize each other as seasoned adventurers, which Tis reports to Rudy. Later, Red and Rit are led to a fairy dragon hamlet to see a patient, an archfey named Undine, who is affected by a magical drain spreading in Zoltan due to the presence of a very powerful entity. Rudy and Tis break Godwin, the creator of the Devil's Blessing, out of prison, and in order to treat the injuries he sustained in the process, they seek out the local apothecary, which leads to an unexpected reunion with her beloved brother. As Red and Rudy catch up, Ares' treachery comes to light, and Rudy announces that she wants to stay with Red, thus giving up on her being the hero. As she returns to the inn, Rudy experiences a sudden spell of sickness, compelling her to look for a set of elven ruins rumored to be in the area to serve as a Sesset laboratory for making the Demon's Blessing. Bui is revealed to be responsible for the recent magic drainage in the area through the use of an enchanted crystal heart. Rudy tries to settle in Zoltan, but her formidable personality hampers her attempts at inconspicuousness. While taking a bath together, Rudy explains to Rit and Tis how much of an emotional support her brother is for her, especially since her blessing as a hero has made her inured to feeling any joy. Tis quietly resolves to save Rudy from her forced destiny in the hero's role. Meanwhile, Ares and Theodora use Albert to track Rudy down. During a break, Theodora explains to Albert that people are not shackled by their blessings from determining their own destiny. Tis shares what she has learned about Rudy with Red and Rit, who conclude that, while Rudy's immunities protect her from the devil's blessing for now, she will eventually succumb to it if she continues to take it to negate her hero blessing. While Red and Rit prepare to travel to the Elven ruins to interrogate Godwin, he encounters Danon, who is ecstatic to see him, but another, fake Danon also makes an appearance. Meanwhile, Ares demolishes Red's shop in his obsessive jealousy of Red. Red travels to the Elven ruins, where he meets Rudy and Godwin and encourages his sister to live her life as she wants, not as her blessing dictates. As they later discuss the effects of Devil's blessing, Rudy notes that an unprecedented blessing without name seems to have emerged in her. Right afterwards, Ares attacks them, but Rudy defies and abandons him. Ares is then met by Bui, an Asura demon. Bui reveals that the ruins shelter an artifact left behind by the first hero, which Ares could use to win Rudy back to his side. Meanwhile, the real Danon meets up with Theodora and Albert, and they continue to hurry to catch up to Red and Rit. Upon discovering what Ares is up to, the heroes converge upon his position. Bui is attacked by Danon, whom he critically wounds with Ares' help, and reveals himself as Shisenden. They reach the chamber containing the artifact they're looking for, 5 sword blades, siblings of the sacred sword wielded by Rudy, and, like Rudy, remnants from the time of the first hero. When Red's group reaches them, the two attack, attempting to kill Red and use the sacred swords to sway Rudy back to her role as the hero. Theodora appears and attacks Rudy to steer her back onto the hero's path. Rit protests against this, pointing out that the one carrying the hero's blessing is not the world's sole savior, but it is really the will of the people that makes somebody, anybody, a hero. Red, Rudy, Rit, Tis, and Godwin rise against their enemies. Red kills Ares, but Shisenden tricks Rudy into touching one of the sacred blades, subjecting her to her blessing's compulsions. Under this urge, she attacks Red, but her blow is taken by Tis, critically wounding her. Red manages to disarm Rudy, freeing her from the sacred blade's influence, but her blessing has been nullified. As an act of repentance for her stubborn adherence to her belief in the hero's blessing, Theodora heals Tis's mortal wound, and all assembled come to the realization that being the hero is not dictated by one's blessing, but their own choices. In the aftermath, Rudy and Tis relocate to Zoltan, where Rudy has been bestowed with a new blessing which suppresses her previous hero's blessing. Red now fully accepts Rit as his wife, and except for the occasional emergency which Rudy chooses to resolve, his life in Zoltan returns to normal. And somewhere in the wilderness, Yerindrala encounters Godwin, who tells her about Red and Rudy's whereabouts, prompting her to rejoin them in Zoltan.